Avatar: Fire and Ash is out in theaters, the third part of the Avatar series directed by James Cameron, starring Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, Stephen Lang, Una Chaplin, and Kate Winslet. Story takes place a few weeks after the events of the previous film, which admittedly I remember only vaguely. The main characters now had a family, they moved to a reef, they had to fight evil industrialist humans again, and with the help of a giant whale creature. Anyway, we pick up the story and we kinda do it all over again. We're still mainly on the reef and also partly in the jungle. Quaritch is still alive somehow in the Na'vi body and still coming for Jake Sully and his family. Evil industrialists, gunboat battles, whales. The only really new element is the Ash tribe, which is a different tribe of Na'vi that are essentially drug-addicted savage crazies who rob and murder others of their own species and who in exchange for guns agree to ally themselves with the human military. So let me start by saying that visually speaking, the movie is absolutely incredible. It will win the Oscar for Best Visual Effects this year for sure, and deservedly so. What they've managed to do in terms of motion capture, performance capture, CGI, and all of that in and underwater is completely unbelievable. And having recently watched the Disney Plus documentary about the behind the scenes of these movies, gave me an increased appreciation of the technical achievements that they present. However, when it comes to the story, this movie is honestly kind of terrible. The biggest problem is probably that it's almost beat for beat a rehash of the previous film. Same plot points, same characters, same final act, same Deus Ex Machinas. It is bigger and louder and longer. The film is 3 hours 17 minutes, but it just feels completely repetitive. No new meaningful character arcs, no new themes, nothing. The one fresh element is the Ash tribe, but I felt that they were underutilized in the end. We learn rather little about their point of view and circumstances, and instead they're reduced to an additional group of villains that take part in the final battle, but you could have removed them entirely and the story would remain largely the same. There are some badly written subplots. Loak, the now eldest son of the Sully family, has a whale subplot where the whale that he bonded with and that helped all of them in the last film is now cast out of his tribe for doing violence. Immediately after, Loak goes after him in the ocean, finds him, brings him back, and then they have another debate with the other whales, and finally they agree to help. And all the way through that, I was thinking, well, this is essentially the same subplot as the last time, repeated all over again, and it wastes about 30 minutes of film to achieve a result that could have been done with just a single conversation at the beginning. The whales going, okay, violence is taboo for us, but we are getting hunted and killed, so let's just make an exception, which is what they do in the end. And by doing that, you lose nothing of substance and you gain half an hour in an already very long film. We also spend, and perhaps a justification for having this subplot in here would be some character growth for Loak, but I don't agree that there is any. I think before his adventure and after, he's essentially just still the same person. He doesn't change or grow or learn anything new. There's also, we'll spend an inordinate amount of time with Spider, played by Jack Champion, who sadly isn't a good actor. And in this case, again, we have some wasted scenes. Like at the beginning of the film, Neytiri is grieving and angry and she suggests killing Spider outright because she now hates all humans. And then we have this scene after the prison escape where there's a 10-minute sequence where Jake tells her, okay, I agree, we have to kill the boy. She says, well, no, he just saved your life. I changed my mind already. He's good. He says, no, I have to kill the boy. He's too important. We can't protect him. And then there's this super drawn out scene of him hesitating with the knife, and it just goes on forever. And in the end, he doesn't kill Spider, obviously. He says, no, I can't do it. We're a family. We will survive together. And they all love each other again. And I'm like, well, that was a waste of time, because aside from Neytiri admitting she was wrong, which could have been done in a single line of dialogue, All these characters wasted 10 minutes to do a quick 360 in terms of their views and opinions. They want to do something and then they don't want to do it again. There's no functional change. I hated that Spider and Kiri have romantic tension and they end up having a kiss scene. It's weird because they grew up together as essentially siblings or at least cousins, so it just felt super strange. I hated how after the prison escape we never see Jermaine Clement again, the biologist. They just leave him behind. So presumably he's called court-martialed. I hated that before the escape, Quaritch easily finds and blackmails the Reef Navy into giving up Jake. And then after the escape, the protagonists go back to the exact same reef. And somehow the military doesn't just come back again to kidnap them once more, or even not even the military officially, but even just Quaritch, who we know from other sequences in this film has a personal bone to pick. He has a personal vendetta and an obsession. Characters of plot armor. There are no meaningful deaths in this film. The status quo from the beginning is exactly the same as we reach in the end. Nobody has really learned anything or changed aside from Spider getting some new Navi superpowers. Every other character is some kind of a chosen one now. So we have Jake, who is the legendary warrior who has the biggest bird. Kiri is the space Madonna communicating with the planet goddess. And now Spider is a magical Navi human who can breathe the toxic air. It's totally unclear what the big gravity vortex in the final act is supposed to be. Is it a natural phenomenon or something that the whales do? I have no clue. There is a general lack of urgency throughout the film within the plot. Most of the film is just various characters taking turns being kidnapped by other characters, but there isn't a sense, like in the first movie, for instance, that the army is coming at some point and the battle will be joined and we have to do something quickly. The plot just meanders from one sequence to the next until the suddenly explosive ending. And again, it is very pretty. The action is very exciting, well staged, well shot. Just a lot of it seems to be poorly written and repetitive and not particularly engrossing. I like the performances, particularly Zoe Saldana, Stephen Lang, and Una Chaplin, who plays the stupid, sexy fire witch. It's very cool to see those performances really come through the motion capture, so that's done very well. One thing I have some doubts about when it comes to the visuals is that throughout the film I thought I was going insane or that the projector was broken because some scenes looked normal and others like TV with motion smoothing turned on. Well, as it turns out, James Cameron shot the movie partly in 24 frames per second, which is normal, and partly, and this mostly for action and underwater scenes, in 48 FPS to get more fluid image. Well, it is fluid, but it's too fluid. It has the same problem as the mentioned motion smoothing on TV. It makes things look slightly too real and as a result uncanny. So yeah, there you have it. I think in the end, the film is a technical marvel with a very disappointing story and character work. I get that this isn't what we all come to Avatar for. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride where the plot is not that important. And I mean, even the previous two were also gorgeous, but kind of forgettable. But I feel Fire and Ash is not just forgettable. It is actively bad and sloppy for the first time, to the point that it did diminish my enjoyment of the visual spectacle. Is it still worth seeing? Honestly, I'm kind of on the fence about that.